Now, an important thing to note, we are coding our smart contracts using a style called checks, effects, interactions, or CEI. And this is one of the most important design patterns that you 100% need to keep in mind because it's going to help you stay secure and stay safer. Towards the end of the course, we'll talk a little bit about reentrancy, different attack vectors, and a little bit about security. But one of the design patterns you should always have in your mind is checks, effects, interactions. So when you're setting up your code, you could even put it in here. You could even say, okay, what are the checks that we're doing? And this would be like your requires or your if then errors, right? And you generally want to start your contract with the checks first. Why? Because it's more gas efficient. If I revert here, it's more gas efficient than if I do all this work and then revert down here, right? Because remember, I'm still paying for the gas of all the computation I do. So I want to revert much quicker in a function call. So we really want to do our checks first. Then we want to do our effects. So this is where we affect our own contract. We affect our own contract. So all of these in here are effects within our own contract. And then finally, we want to do interactions. And this is going to be with other contracts. One of the biggest reasons we do this is to avoid something called reentrancy attacks, which we'll talk about later. But if you keep this in mind and you learn this now, you'll be a lot safer once you do start to learn about reentrancies and different types of attacks. Now, this is a good point here. We're saying, okay, cool. We're going to do interactions last, interact with other contracts. Hey, we're doing it a MIT at the end. Is that an interaction with another contract? No, it's not. So we should absolutely move it up here. Now, there is some debate about events. Some people do like putting them after the interactions. If I'm doing a code review or an audit on your code and you have an event after an external interaction, I'm usually going to recommend to put it up here for a whole lot of reasons that we'll go into much later in the course. Just remember this design pattern: checks, effects, interactions. Do your checks first, your effects next, and then your external interactions. Checks, effects, interactions.